I guess.
Which direction do you want me to go?
Let's go with the World War II right now.
Okay. Okay. I was married, just married, when they announced that Pearl Harbor had been
bombed.
Yeah. And so, all of a sudden, everything in this country turned off to defense.
Okay.
My husband and his dad had a plumbing business, and buildings stopped. Everything stopped. It went all into defense. So you had to either follow the defense things. And I was married, like I said. And so we went. First thing my husband did was they looked for a job up in northern Idaho at Farragut Naval Base.
Okay.
So he went up, and we went with him, and so he was on construction there. Then he went into boot camp there. But everything, and it was a very patriotic time because anybody that was 4Fers, you know, was really ostracized because you were fighting for your country, and I guess that's really what you were doing because Franklin declared war first on Germany and then on Japan. Well, so anyway, life was very uncertain because you went to these defense projects, and there was a big steel mill down by American Falls.
What were they doing at the projects?
Huh?
What were they doing there at the factories?
The factories?
Well, like the defense projects. What were they doing there?
That's what Farragut was one of them.
Okay.
So everybody moved up, or everybody I knew, men moved up to that. And then they had to move down. So we would kind of follow these. Then they went down to American Falls where they were building this big steel mill.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's still in operation now or not. But so everything in the country, and this is where a lot of the little country people that I grew up with in little small towns would gravitate to San Diego or these towns.
The bigger towns?
Bigger towns to work on defense. Of course, they made good money, real good money then. And I think the Depression, that kind of cured the Depression. And so, but you see, you never knew. You know that your husband was going to be called, the draft. First they called the single men, then they called the married men, then they called the men with one child, and we had a little girl by then. So we knew we were living in American Falls, and he knew he'd be called, so he went to Salt Lake and joined the Navy.
Yeah.
So when they left, you never knew whether you were going to see your husband or not. Most of the people my age, they had a child and they moved back home to live with their parents.
Okay. Did you move back in with?
Yeah, I moved back to Idaho Falls, and then I got a chance to go with my husband places, but so we went. So when we went first to Oklahoma City, and then we went, and he was training to be a gunner there. When they got all through that training, he was too tall. They wouldn't take him. So they transferred him. We went to Florida for a while, down to Fort Lauderdale. And then I just went down there with him when he was going to Connecticut.
Uh-huh.
And that was where they had the big, he was in the Air Force, Navy Air Force. But at that time, they also had the big submarine base out there.
Okay.
So you followed. So when you got in the service,
you'd go where they needed you.
If you could. But it was hard to transfer, to go where your husband went because you never knew how long you'd be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they went, you had to have the money to either travel with them or But, so it was a very uncertain time. And I remember we were living in Connecticut when they armistice, we won the battle for Germany.
Okay.
And boy, I'll tell you, everything erupted. My husband went to New York. Everything it was such a happy time when those wars ended. First Germany, and then Japan. It was a happy, happy time.
Did you go into any of the celebrations?
I didn't, but he always had a way, because he was this Navy Air Force.
Yeah.
And so when they'd fly planes anywhere, he got to go. So I didn't go into those big celebrations, but every town had them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, because, you know, there was so many. If you got a star in there, a little star meant that one of your sons died.
Oh, yeah. The stars?
You got a telegram saying that your son was either missing in action or died. And, I mean, we just lived with that, you know.
Yeah.
And, of course, everybody was rationed. Gasoline was rationed. But we never had it bad like the war areas did.
Okay.
But
war areas, as in you mean what?
Like Germany.
Oh.
People in Germany.
Okay.
I guess they almost starved to death, and some people in England. When I went to Germany, there was a family that came up and told me how they were so grateful for the food they got from the United States. And so we didn't have it bad like that, but we did have a gasoline ration. And if we got certain fruits in the store, everybody would go down to get their quota. Bananas were one thing that we'd get down there to get our quota of bananas, or sugar, and gasoline, and so everybody was affected by the war.
Okay.
One way or another.
Well, do you want to talk about your house now?
Oh, well, that was, I don't know why, but that really had a reputation. And when Bradley Kirby, you know, was just a little kid, I remember he would come and he was so little, we had to set him up in a high chair. And Aunt Harriet, he says, you know, this house is haunted. But, and then the little stories, the kids, and I don't know whether they made them up or not, but Kathy said that Ashley was just a little boy at that time.
Okay.
Just a real toddler.
Yeah.
And she was downstairs, and they were cleaning out under the stairs, and Ashley was talking to somebody, and Kathy said to him, "Who are you talking to?" He said, "To that lady. Didn't you see that lady?" So, you know, those stories mushroomed and
They got bigger and bigger.
Bigger and bigger. Of course, everybody saw something. But,
what else did people see?
well, those are the only stories that I remember. But I remember Joyce, when Joyce was little. She slept with me. She was visiting me. She and who else was with her? She had another cousin with her, and I don't know who it was. And they'd sleep with me because they didn't dare sleep alone in that house.
Yeah.
And she says, "I heard footprints come down that hall." I did. I heard footprints come down that hall. So these little stories again.
Yeah.
And we were all waiting. My dad and Carrie had come up, and we were all in the house, and the kids would sleep on the floor in the front room. And this one night, we got up to the next morning after everybody. We were going to Yellowstone Park, and I had baked some pies to take with our lunch, and they had absolutely disappeared, completely disappeared. Now the kids were sleeping on the floor. Nobody saw anything. So, you know, I kind of got...
That kind of
so
helped
I think
with it.
that's probably where your mother got. That's where your grandpa got mad at me for letting these stories circulate.
Got all the little kids scared?
Oh, yeah, they'd get scared. I remember that somebody says we had to put the bed down by... kids sleep down by our bed because they wouldn't go sleep.
So want to tell the Black Panther story?
Well, this is my grandma's story. And she, you have to know that house to appreciate it, because it was kind of a lonely house, and she'd go off for sometimes weeks into somebody's house nursing a sick baby or sick mother and baby or something. So the house was never locked up. If you went up to see Grandma, she might be home, she might not, but you could always walk in and wait for her or something, but you never knew where she was. Well, anyway, when she was home and we'd go up there as kids, why, we had, she'd tell us stories, and this one story, I mean, they were way out stories. This is the Panther story that only one I particularly remember. But she said that she and I was sleeping, and boy, I tell you, I was right down by her, so she couldn't even turn over, and she'd tell me these stories. She says, you know, I was laying here, I heard something come down that hall. Remember, the door was never shut, never locked, never shut. I heard that come down there, padding, come in my bedroom, and this great big black cat, that's what she called him, great big black cat come laid right across the bed from me. Put his paw on, I couldn't move, and she says, I was so scared. I just didn't move. She said, all I did was pray that he wouldn't hurt me, but he lay there all night, and when it began to get light, he got up and just walked out.